Hi there. Today we're going to talk about the last quarter. Now, the last quarter doesn't get a lot of attention. A lot of people don't even know what it is. But I want to tell you real quick, if you don't use the last quarter, what that's like. It's like trying to plant seeds in an overgrown garden. It's like eating breakfast in bed and getting crumbs everywhere and then not cleaning it up before you go to bed that next night. It's also like, say, you made pasta sauce and you get all this red sauce on the pan and you don't clean it, and then the next morning you use that same pan to make your morning eggs. It's kind of gross, right? Okay, before I go too far here, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video like this or one of my weekly updates where I light the path forward by bringing you the weekly message from the moon. Okay? Last quarters, this poor moon phase, it just gets ignored. And that's so unfortunate because, again, they're responsible for those things like a clean bed and a sanitary pan to cook in, okay? Now, they're not sexy like the new moons and the full moons. And I think that's because of how they look. At the new moon, it's very dramatic. The sky, the sky is dark. We can't see a thing. And then equally at the full moon, it's dramatic again because we see this big, bright, beautiful full moon, a perfect circle. Now the last quarter, it is a half moon. Not too exciting, right? It's just half of a circle. Specifically, we see the left-hand side of the moon. Here, check out this little explanation. All right, so what I want to show here is a visual depiction of the moon and the sun up in the sky relative to us here on Earth at a last quarter. So that way it'll make a little bit more sense why we see what we see, okay? So we've got the sun over here, and then we've got the Earth and the moon. And they are in this 90-degree angle. If you're standing here on Earth, we have the sun over here, and then at 90 degrees from this position here on Earth, we have the moon. And if you put yourself here on Earth, that represents an angle of tension, this 90 degrees in astrology, okay? That's what motivates us to take action and move and do something, okay? But why does the moon look the way that it does? Okay, so if you imagine, again, standing here on Earth, what side of the Earth is getting light right now? It's this side, okay? The side that is facing the sun. The moon is the same way. The sun's light can only shine on one side of it. So at this point in time, the sun's light is shining here on this side, and then the other side is dark. That's why from Earth, what we see is just that one side, okay? So that's why we see what we see at the last quarter. All right, now let's keep going. All right, that was pretty cool, right? So that angle of tension that I spoke about there, it's calling on us to take action, to do something. All right, and this is outward action. It's not thinking or writing or doing anything internal. It's interacting with the world in some way, in a way that creates space in your life. Again, we're trying to clear the garden, right? Clean up the pan, clean up our bed, clean up the garden. Okay, but now how do you know what to do? Okay, well, there's a couple ways you could go about this. You could just take a moment and think and look around you and see what you find. Yeah, that looks like it could go. It's the last quarter. I should get rid of something. You could do that. Honestly, you could. That's perfectly acceptable. But if you want to work with the moon's energy in a more precise way, there's a couple of more things that you could do. All right. First, you're going to look to the dates that brought us to the specific last quarter that we have. Now, I review each of these dates every last quarter in my weekly video updates. I give you the full rundown. On a last quarter, I give you 4 dates. I give you the date of the actual last quarter, okay? And then I give you the new moon where you would have set your intention. And you do this consciously and unconsciously. But the first quarter is all about telling the moon what we want. And a key on this new moon is that you want to tap into what your self-talk was on that new moon. It's really important, okay? Now, watch this video here if you want an example of a last quarter where I give an example where I wrote out a really great intention, but as I was looking back, I realized that my self-talk was really negative, okay? And you're going to get to hear this juicy story of how this one played out, okay? All right, then the next date that I give you is the first quarter. And the first quarter is another angle of tension where we take action. And what you're doing at the first quarter is you're showing the moon what you want by your actions. Okay, the new moon's telling it, the first quarter's showing it. So you want to look back and you want to see what you were doing and how were you interacting with others. What did you commit to? What did you buy? What did you book? What did you say? What did you agree to? And like the new moon, the energy is important. All right, then I'm going to give you the full moon date. And that date is going to be the most recent. And it's going to be when the moon showed you what you created. Okay, it is a time to observe and to see the truth. Now, between what you wrote down and the actions you took, but most importantly, the energy that you were in, that's going to be what you're going to create. And again, that video update, sorry to keep referencing it, but you should see what I created when the truth came to light. You want a little bit of a spoiler? I found out I had invested in a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. Okay, so that is the first thing that you can do to get a little more specific about what to consider, releasing. And you can always get those dates through my weekly video updates where I give you the message from the moon. So hit subscribe so you never miss one. All right, now the second thing you can do is to find the area of life that the moon is activating on the particular last quarter that we're working with. All right, what do I mean by that? Well, we all have an astrology chart. And it's shaped like a circle, and that circle is cut up into 12 slices that represent the 12 areas of life, okay? There are 12 zodiac signs, and I'm sure that you know the names of these. There's Cancer, Leo, Capricorn, Aries, Aquarius, etc., all right? Now there's 12 of those zodiac signs, and each one of them gets assigned to an area of life in your chart. And this is all based on the date and the time and the place that you were born. Now, how do you figure this out? All right, well, you can figure out by watching this other tutorial that I made of where to figure out what zodiac sign rules which house in your chart. That's one option. Or you can join Moon Chat, my membership where we not only figure out which area of life is ruled by each zodiac sign for you, but we also keep track of it for you. And then on each moon phase, you get a custom email telling you the area of life to work with. Okay, so each email comes along a couple days before each phase. You get the phase, you get how to work with it, you get the dates, so you also get that first part 1 too, and I give you the area of life that is being activated for you. So you know if it's a last quarter impacting your money or your relationship or your children, or your home, or your career, or your friends. I give you all of that, okay? And then as part of your membership, you can also get a journal to record all your observations in. It is a beautiful journal with spaces to write for each phase. And there is a month in review calendar at the start of each month that is color-coded, all right? So, and you can use this journal either electronically or you can print it out and write on it, okay? So go to lauracusto.com. Click on Become a Moon Chat member to join, and I'll drop that link in the show notes as well. Okay, now I do want to touch on these areas of life. I mentioned them just briefly a second ago, relationships, kids, career, friends. But, I'm sure you're asking, what are they really? Okay, why is it important? And how would they relate to a last quarter? Okay, so there are 12 areas of life. And they are referred to by number, which makes it really easy. They're called houses, the first house, the second house, etc., all the way on up to 12. And so here's what happens. Each year, we have a last quarter in each of the astrology signs. And like I said, each sign rules one of your 12 areas of life. So every single year, you get a last quarter in all 12 areas of life. Okay, so let's say Capricorn rules your second house of money and personal resources. Now, when we have a last quarter in Capricorn, which we do, like clockwork, sometime between March 20th and April 20th, every single year, that last quarter will be the time for you to review the most recent story that's unfolded based on the dates that I give you around your money and your resources, and it'll be a time to release something related to that theme. So maybe it's about spending money on something you don't value anymore. Maybe it's signing up for a class to change your beliefs around money that you've realized are limiting. Okay. So I'm going to go through now the 12 houses and what releasing around them could look like. Okay. So the first house, your identity and your self image. Now, this represents you, your appearance, and how you present yourself to the world. This house governs self awareness, personal beginnings, first impressions, and the physical body that you inhabit. Okay, so releasing here, this could look like maybe you've had a realization around something you've been suppressing. You're suppressing who you really are. You're not going to live up to other people's standards anymore. You're going to be true to yourself. So this can look like having a conversation with anyone who thinks you are someone you are not and telling them the truth. It can look like coming out about your true identity. And it's shedding any sort of layer related to your sense of identity that you've outgrown or that you've allowed others to believe about you. All right. Second house, this is about your values and your possessions. So money, your earning capacity, it relates to financial security, your sense of self-worth, your personal skills and talents, and the resources that you have built throughout your life. So this can look like stopping things that you've been paying for regularly, subscriptions, gym memberships, a particular merchant that you've decided is no longer in alignment with your values. Okay, there's double there. It can also look like selling something, getting rid of something. It can look like deciding to stop doing something that others perceive to be a skill that you have. You know, maybe someone's been using you as your go-to resource to, I don't know, like paint in their house, or you're somebody's handyman, you know, and you didn't sign up for that, and you've realized, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so it's having a conversation about that and putting an end to it. It's about clearing the way and creating space so that you can devote more time, money, energy to other things, and then stop devoting them to things that you realize don't serve you. All right, the third house. This is about communication and analysis. So it's your communication style, it's your learning methods, it's also your immediate environment. So it covers siblings, neighbors, short trips, early education, and how you process and share information. So releasing here could look like having a conversation with people in your immediate environment and discussing something that needs to end, right? It could be a collaborative thing, or you realize through your own analysis what needs to end and you communicate it. It can also be ending something related to how you get around in your local environment. Perhaps, for example, maybe you take the bus to work, but you've realized that you hate it. And the realization is that it's draining you. So you decide to stop that and you find a new way to commute. All right. Fourth house, family and self-care. So this is your home, your family foundations, your emotional security. It also represents femininity and self-care practices. It represents your roots, your ancestry, your nurturing instincts, and your private life where you feel most comfortable and you can just go, okay. Now, the fourth house, this is a big one. Now, there are kind of four main houses, I want to interject that here, that are said to be on the angles or the quarter marks. So they come in, groups of three. So 1, 4, and then you got 5, 6, then 7 is a main one. Then you got 8, 9, 10 is a main one. And then we, go back around the circle to 1. Okay, so home life. And what does this look like as far as endings? So it could be selling your home. It could be deciding to end a family, to get a divorce. It can look like ending something that the family does or the way that it does it. Okay, it's related also to self-care and emotional security. So it can look like putting an end to a habit that's harmful to you, or having a conversation with someone if they're a part of a dynamic, and telling them that, what's got to end. And then with roots and ancestry, it can look like deciding to let go of something that you've realized there that's been troubling, right? Maybe you've had an ongoing family dynamic and you've been working through something, and maybe your full moon realization was, I can just really let go of this anytime that I want to. But it's taken you a little while, and you get to this last quarter and you're like, oh, I'm really ready to put a bow on this sort of family drama, right? Another thing that I thought of, it could look like, say, a parent has put a child up for adoption, and maybe that child reached out, and there was something around that with the full moon, and now on this last quarter the parent has realized, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to meet and kind of, make peace with this, right? So, again, lots of powerful things around that fourth house. All right, fifth house, self expression and pleasure. This is a fun house. Literally, I call it the fun house. So it's your creativity and your self expression, it's romance and pleasures. This house also governs children, hobbies, entertainment, artistic talents, and how you share your authentic self through play. Okay, so this could be a realization that something here needs to end. Like, is it ending an affair or a romance that no longer serves you? Is it stopping something that once brought you pleasure but no longer does? So it's ending a dynamic probably that's grown unhealthy, ending a dynamic with your children that's become unhealthy, stopping a hobby, but it's, something that once brought you joy that you've been nurturing or that you've kind of been carrying on. Maybe you're like, oh, I used to really like this, but I think I've outgrown it. Okay. So you want to release that and then, create the space for more good, fun things to come into your life. All right, sixth house is the house of health and daily life. So this is your daily routines, what you do for work, your habits, your health practices, your organizational systems. It also represents pets and your clothing choices. That's something you do every day. So this house, though, ultimately relates to service, skills development, and how you manage your everyday responsibilities. So what to release here starts with kind of an obvious example, a bad habit, put an end to a bad habit, okay? But yeah, it's really anything that's come to be a part of your regular routine that you're ready to let go of. So health habits, it can look like leaving a doctor or switching the health club that you go to. Maybe it's a supplement that you take. How you organize your day, the calendar system that you use, where you get your morning coffee, your morning routine, your bedtime routine, what you wear, how to decide what you wear. And again, it also rules pets. So your routines with your pets, or shifting some routines around them. Okay. Then we move to the seventh house. So this is another big one. It's one-on-one partnerships. So it's relationships with others. It covers marriage. It also covers business collaborations and business partnerships. It's also your open enemies, it's contracts, and it's how you balance yourself through relating to others. So it's going to be like your boundaries. So releasing here, it could be resetting a boundary. It could be ending a marriage or a business partnership or an aspect of those relationships that comes to an end. For example, maybe you and your partner have been living long distance for a long time and you decide, hey, wow, we hate this. Like, we want to live together. Or it could be vice versa. Maybe you guys decide, hey, we'd actually like to live apart. So let's do that now. It could be that you decide to stop doing business with a supplier in a business relationship or in a personal relationship. Maybe you've been going to, say, a specific church and you decide, we're done with this one. So with open enemies, there's a good one. It could be that maybe a certain phase of that dynamic has come to an end and it's entering a new phase, or it could be a friendship that you have that needs to evolve and enter a new level. So again, it's about how you relate to others and endings around that. And again, always ending things that no longer serve you, so you create space for that which does to come in. All right, then we move to the eighth house of shared resources. So this is your relationship with transformation, shared resources, it's regeneration and sexuality. This house also governs inheritance, taxes, it's your intimate connections, it's power dynamics, and it's life's deepest mysteries, right? How we interact with other people's resources. So this is a really heavy house, and it's again, anything to do with the resources and energy of others. So it can be endings with respect to mundane things like taxes and investment strategies and wills and trusts. Maybe there's been an issue that you've been working through with any of those, and then you finally see the way out and the way to resolve it. It's also power dynamics, so it could be a struggle with someone at work. It could be an unspoken competition that you're having with someone, and the storyline comes to an end. Maybe you've outgrown it and you're ready to bury the hatchet, or you've realized that you've simply leveled up and it doesn't apply to you anymore. All right. And it also rules sex, right? The merging of resources with another, Sex is definitely a big one. So endings with respect to sexual arrangements of any and all kinds. So it could be ending the arrangement or, agreeing to end an aspect of it in favor of pursuing something else. All right. Then ninth house, we have principles and exploration. Now, this is your philosophical beliefs, your higher education, your worldview. This house relates to long distance travel, it's publishing, it's cultural exploration, religion, and your personal search for meaning and the truth. Ooh, this one, I gotta say, this one can be exciting because it's about exploring and expanding horizons, which revolves around growth. And, growth is such a naturally cyclical process. So the last quarter is an integration point and it's a logical reset and renewal. And so it fits so well with this. So you could have, let's say, finished your degree and you had this idea of how you would use it. And then you get your first job and it's like, oh, it's not what I thought. And so you let go of your initial beliefs and you embrace sort of a new path forward, right? Like maybe you became a doctor and you thought you would specialize in family practice, but then you realize you love pediatrics and now you want to niche down to that. Okay, so it's that sort of a thing. Or maybe you took a trip somewhere and when you went on the trip, you said, okay, I'm going to go to, Uganda. And then the next country I want to go to is Namibia. And you get back from your trip and you've kind of processed it all and you're like, I think I actually really want to go back to Uganda and dig into that more, right? So it's this exploration of the world, okay? Another example, it could be maybe you've had a longstanding political belief, but then something just happened and it's shifted you. And you're coming to terms with that and you're realizing like, oh, all these affiliations that I have or what my friends and family think, I'm going to have to re-navigate these relationships. There might be some relationships that need to go and maybe you're like, I need to actually reach out to some new people and I'd like to make some new friends. Bottom line, ninth house, and some people might look at this as like, wow, that's just kind of a nice to have. But if you're not stoking your curiosity and living a life in a way that it makes you feel truly alive, well, then you're not truly alive. And so, that's the importance of this house. Again, it's about finding what's true for you and pursuing that in life and staying true to those ideals. Okay. Then we get to the 10th house, which is our last angular house. Again, it's another big one. So the first one was us and our sense of self. Then we had the fourth one, which was our home. The seventh one, which is our one-on-one partnerships. And then the 10th house, it's our career and social status. Okay. So this is your public reputation, the career path that you take. It's your achievements, What awards do you have hanging on your wall, let's say? It represents authority. It represents ambition and social status, your legacy, okay? It's your visible contribution to society. So an example here, let's say you lost a promotion at the full moon. By the last quarter, a great example would be you've come to realize that, you know what? I didn't really want that, and now I want this. You found your new passion. With authority, maybe you realize that you've been too hard on people, so you're going to be more compassionate. Or maybe you've been a member of a specific club that pointed towards your being successful, but now you realize like, ooh, that's actually really superficial. It doesn't align with my values anymore, and I'm going to leave. In my experience, the 10th house is usually about coming to terms with something that you thought you wanted, right? Because you think about this, it's your legacy, your social status, your visible contribution to society. They're very ego kind of based, right? And so usually a natural evolution with the 10th house is you realize like, oh, I thought I wanted that. And you kind of get there and you're like, it's sort of empty. And that's not really fulfilling to me. And so you kind of shift your focus and you find a new aim in life. All right. 11th house. The 11th house is about friend groups and networking. And so this represents your social networks, what groups you're affiliated with, and your aspirations for humanitarian causes. So again, friendships. It also, with networking, it represents innovative thinking and how we use technology. And then technology also helps us connect, right? Communities, so connecting to communities and collectives. It's your relationship to the collective. So this, what could this look like? Letting go of a friendship you've outgrown or a network or a club. Maybe you've been working as a volunteer for a cause and you realize it's time to shift and move on to something else. It could be an ending with technology. Maybe you realize like, oh, I've got an addiction to this and I really need to improve my healthy relationship with technology and have better tech hygiene. Now that could also play into the sixth house. So you can kind of see how you can have something going on in life and there's a lot of overlap sometimes between these houses, right? Maybe it's a position you've held in your community that could be coming to an end. It could be running for office and you decide you're not going to do that anymore. But it's all about creating space in your life for how you show up in the collective and what's next. Now, I want to just take a moment here. The 10th and 11th houses, you got this public stage in the 10th house, interacting with others. There's pride and ego and keeping things in check with a lot of this. 10th house is your vocation, but 11th house could be, volunteering. But there's this visibility within the collective in both of these houses. And so I just wanted to kind of say, another natural ending here is realizing when you've hit that pinnacle and you recognize, hey, I've had the spotlight and I kind of know how to lead this organization like clockwork. It's no big deal. It's easy for me. But you're holding on to that for the sake of your ego. That is a signal like, oh, time to release. It's time for you to move on. You've outgrown it. You're being called to move on, really. That nudge you feel like, wow, I could do this in my sleep. That's the nudge. That's the hint. Get out, move on, and let someone else have that opportunity, right? And then that creates space for you to go to your next level, right? So, and also I want to say, the 10th is generally more about our vocation and our purpose. And then the 11th is about how we interact with the collective. But of course, there's a little bit of overlap there. All right, then the 12th house, the last house, it's spirituality and our subconscious. So your subconscious patterns, your hidden strengths, and your spiritual connection. This house, it also relates to retreating. It relates to sacrifice, compassion, our dreams, our intuition, and completion of things. So it's very natural there with the last quarter. It's secrets. It's what we have hidden. Okay. So this could come up as having had a major spiritual breakthrough on the full moon. And then you've been working through the last 9 months or so on integrating it. And now you get to the last quarter and it's like, ooh, okay. It's time to like really fully make this shift. You've been processing it and now you're ready to outwardly make this shift. This 12th house is, you need to be true to yourself and speak your truth and letting go of situations that don't align to that. So it could be a secret that you've been keeping. The full moon revealed some truth around that and you need to bring it forth. And so you bring it forth on the last quarter and you're prepared by then also to navigate the potential storm that may ensue, but with the 12th house, I really think, again, because it is so internal, you reach this point of really just getting so tired. You're like kind of tired of being exhausted by this thing that's taking up this space in your life. Okay. So, it could be hiding your true feelings to a friend, a partner, a group. Okay, it could be hiding your true feelings about yourself. So again, it could be very subconscious. So, all right, woo, we made it. That's all 12 houses. And so, I hope that gives you some ideas for what taking action could look like on the last quarter. Of course, that is not comprehensive. Oh my goodness. But, I hope it really gets you thinking. And with that, I hope that this has been helpful, and I thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching. If you've enjoyed this, please drop a thumbs up or leave a review if you're listening on the podcast. Also, I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. What realizations did this bring up for you? Or have you been working with the last quarter and do you have a storyline to share? I would really love to know, okay? Working with these moon phases and each weekly message that we get with each new phase has totally changed my life. As I see these stories unfolding and I unearth my next steps, I'm in awe and I'm extremely grateful for the guidance. And I think if you go to my website, lauracusso.com, check out some of the reviews, you'll find that I am not alone. All right, but because of this amazing realization and the synchronicities that we work with here, I am on a mission to share this magic with as many people as possible. So if you'd like to learn more, and see what this is all about, go on over to lauracusso.com and sign up for my free offer or check out the membership. There are a lot of ways to get started, and I would love to have you along for the journey. Take care.